midterms are getting wild.
That's right, they are.
And so we're going to turn now to a midterm update, and we're going to start with a surprisingly close race in the state of Utah. Now, who would have expected us to be talking about Utah at this point? But a year or so ago, Evan McMullin saw what he believed was an opportunity. He made his case kind of behind the scenes, but also publicly to whoever would listen, that, hey, Democrats are not remotely competitive in Utah. If I can show that I am a viable challenger to Mike Lee, I think that Democrats will all fizzle away and will then come over and back me. And then I will be close to having a shot against Mike Lee. I've read some demographic data that if you looked at Utah as any other state and stripped Mormonism out of it, which is impossible because it wouldn't exist really without it, but let's say that you could, that it would be either purple or blue, just based on urban, suburban, and rural demographics. If those urban, suburban, and rural voters voted like urban, suburban, and rural voters everywhere else in the country, it's a blue state because Salt Lake City and its suburbs make up such a huge portion. There's nothing outside of there. It's just desert once you get outside there. And but because of the social conservatism embedded in Mormonism, it has been a rock-solid Republican state. But at the same time, because of the inflection of morality embedded in it, they were so uncomfortable with Trump. Like, it's much more so than evangelical movement, for instance.
Yeah, well, and this is a huge focus of a really great book people should pick up, which is called Alienated America by Tim Carney, where he looked at actually not the general election results in 2016, but the primary election results on the Republican side in 2016 to analyze which communities supported Trump right away and which were still backing people like Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio. And Utah was a great case study because he found places that have high social capital and high marks of civil society tended to reject Trump in the primary, and places without it, rural Wisconsin, rural Pennsylvania, Rust Belt towns, they embraced Trump right away. And so Mike Lee is then presiding over the state that has really high social capital and really high then aversion to Donald Trump.
Right. So Trumpism feeds off the carcass of Reaganism. It thrives in atomization and misery.
Alienation, actual alienation that has been induced by our economics and our culture.
Right, and so because of the strength of the Mormon community in Utah, those community bonds have held together a level of kind of social contentment.
Yes.
Without papering over the many abuses and all the other problems that would have with the church, what it does is it does create community, and in a place of community, it's very hard to pit people against each other and tear people down.
It shields you from the ravages of economic hardship.
And demagoguery is not going to play as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because you're less you feel less disenfranchised, and you are less disenfranchised.
Yeah, but they're not going to be Democrats. So they were dragged kicking and screaming into this Trump coalition, and so McMullin, who ran a kind of independent bid for president that a lot of people made fun of.
Ridiculous.
Got a lot of name recognition out of that, and then parlayed that into this Senate race. Now, let's not get ahead of ourselves. He's still something. What was it? 5 or 6, 7 points behind in the 538 polling, but he's climbing. He does seem like he's moving. Some polls have it very close, and Mike Lee certainly is acting like it's close. Let's go ahead and play this Mike Lee clip on Tucker Carlson this week.
Well, I've asked him, I'm asking him right here again tonight, right now. Mitt, if you'd like to protect the Republican majority, give us any chance of seizing the Republican majority once again, getting it away from the Democrats who are facilitating this massive spending spree and a massive inflationary binge. Please get on board. Help me win re-election. Help us do that. You can get your entire family to donate to me through leeforsenate.com. I'd invite all of your viewers to do the same, because this is a race that's getting closer and closer, because Evan McMullin continues to raise millions of dollars from progressive Democratic donors nationwide who are hell-bent on getting rid of me and replacing him with Evan McMullin.
Yeah, well, so he's absolutely right. So Mike Lee won his prior races by huge margins. So he won in 2010 by about 30%. He won in 2016 by about 40%, or about 40 points. And he's right, because if you look at the way Evan McMullin is running, I don't know if you get his press releases. They're absolutely hilarious. This is a headline from one of them on October 11th. Republican member of the January 6th committee, Representative Adam Kinzinger, endorses Evan McMullin for U.S. Senate. That is not a way to win Republican votes in any other state. And I'm not sure that it actually really works in Utah. He's running as a former undercover CIA agent. That's something he constantly talks about. So this is clearly a campaign where he is raking in money from big money progressives and progressives in air quotes, and he is running really for that sort of like viewership wine mom vote.
Right, and Democrats love Kinzinger and Cheney and those folks now.
Love 'em.
So you're also appealing to Democrats by citing your support from those particular Republicans.
And the Democrats did not run a counter to Lee. They're backing McMullin.
Right.
Because, and that's smart in a state like Utah.
His guess was right, that Democrats be like, why are we going to bother?
Exactly.
Like if somebody else is going to take an actual shot, why are we just going to put some toady up here just to lose? Before we move to the Ohio Senate race, which is fascinating, what's your guess? Does he end up winning election night by 5 points?
Well, yeah, I mean, looking
at
be
closer.
Real Clear Politics polls have him up 5, 3, 5, 6, and 5. Those are the most recent ones, and there's not great polling in this race. It looks like I went all the way back to May and June polls just in listing off those 5 most recent ones on RCP. So it's hard to say because the polling, I think, in general, this cycle, I mean, pollsters are worried about how bad their numbers are, and so I would guess probably I don't think Mike Lee's going to lose. Whether it's a terrifyingly close margin for him or a 5-point healthy margin is a different question.
Now, he has also said, and this is the key point, that he will not caucus with either party.
McMullin.
Yeah. So if there are 50 Republicans.
He's like Bernie.
Right. No, Bernie caucuses.
That's right, he does.
Although when he was elected to the House, the Democratic caucus would not allow him in.
Yeah.
They said you can
some Bernie history.
They said you can be in our caucus for committee purposes, but we will not let a socialist come to our actual meetings.
Yeah.
That was their rule. So if it's 50 Republicans, 49 Democrats plus their independents like Bernie and Angus King, and then McMullin, if McMullin, it's not who he caucuses with. That's not what matters. It's who he votes for majority leader. So if he votes for Schumer for majority leader but doesn't caucus, so the fact that he said he wouldn't caucus with Democrats doesn't actually mean that he won't help Democrats control the chamber. So that I think that's what would happen.
I think if his internals were higher, maybe we would hear that question being taken more seriously by Democrats. I don't know. I would think if Utah Democrats had a good indication that he was going to beat Mike Lee, they would really want answers to that question.
Right, or maybe they have the answers.
Maybe they do. Well, that's true. But if McMullin is just going to get in there and vote the exact same way that Mike Lee would, they don't have a lot of good reason to keep pushing so hard for him.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.